Elliott, before the game, he was a healthy scratch. And you're probably asking yourself, healthy scratch? Well, what is happening? Well, reports come out that Zeke was a healthy scratch and did not travel with the football team to Atlanta. And there's so many layers in this, but when you look at everything that is going on with Zeke so far this season, I don't believe Zeke is the player that he thinks he is, or that he once was. And let's just break this down a little bit. So Zeke is a healthy scratch, and the reason being that they said was because of disciplinary issues. That Zeke was a habitual late to meetings, to team meetings, to other meetings, and kind of became a little bit of a pain in the tail in the building. Now let's rewind. When the Cowboys initially signed Zeke, and this is where the Cowboys as an organization continues to eat themselves. They cannibalize themselves. Because my belief is that when Zeke signed, and this is true, a lot of the high-profile players that are in the Cowboys organization dates all the way back to before I was a Cowboy, while I was a Cowboy, and after I was a Cowboy. Those guys are usually handled. When I say high-profile, I mean your guys, your Tony Romos, your Jason Wittens, your Dak Prescott, your Ezekiel Elliott, your CeeDee Lamb. A lot of times those high-profile guys are handled by Jerry Jones. They talk to him, and he's able to maneuver and make things happen. And then your mid to level guys and your guys like your Jesse Hollies of the world, the coach handle those guys. And I believe that when Zeke signed and he had a conversation with Jerry Jones was feeding him all of, man, we're bringing you back, and you're going to be, you're going to be our running back, and you're going to be the guy that sets the tone for us offensively, to get the running game going. We need your bruising and your power in the running game. And we're going to couple you with Rico Dowdle. And you and Rico, are going to be our 1-2 punch. And so Zeke's probably like, cool, bet. Let's do it. And also, I believe this. I also believe Zeke, in the heart of hearts, in his competitive mind, he said to himself, well, I know what Rico is. I remember playing with Rico when he backed me up. And he felt in his heart of hearts that I'm going to come here, and even if they try to make Rico the guy, I'm better. And so you have what Zeke is hearing from Jerry Jones. And then you have what Zeke is seeing and hearing and maybe wondering about what he's hearing from Mike McCarthy. Because I don't believe that Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones' plans for Ezekiel Elliott was on the same page. I just don't. I think Jerry had a plan and a purpose. I think Mike had a plan and purpose, and those two never aligned. And then as you got closer and closer to the season, Mike wanted to do one thing. You heard Mike every single week, Michael from Pittsburgh. You heard him every single week talk about, elevating Dalvin Cook and letting Rico be the lead dog. And even times he would come out and say that he wasn't a fan of the running back by committee, that he wanted to give running back the lead carries, and then we would kind of fill the other guys in. And it kind of went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then Rico had the really good game against Pittsburgh, right? And you think, wow, Rico had a really good game, carried the ball a significant amount. You saw the rhythm happen for him in those games, and that was going to be the way they continue to do this. And then Zeke comes out, and he kind of makes a little bit of a stink. Probably wouldn't talk to Jerry. Next game, Zeke is your lead back. Zeke gets the majority of the carries. Not that he got 20, 30 carries, but he was the guy that got the carries. And Rico goes from having his best game to having 2 or 3 or 4 carries total the entire game. And so now you're talking about how all this stuff is going, and with the losing and all of these things, you start now seeing Zeke kind of like, well, they're not going to play me. If I'm not going to be in the game plan, if we're not going to commit to the running, then I'll show up to meetings when I want. I'll show up to this when I want. And become a distraction. And what makes it even more difficult, I think, Jerry's talked about Zeke being a great teammate, a great guy in the locker room, an energy guy, someone who could show some of these other guys what it means to be a professional. And I got to thinking, like, this looks like something like Udonis Haslem, Juwan Howard, J.J. Barea, the tail end of like Jerry Stackhouse's and Antoine Jameson career, where physically you can still play, you are nowhere near who you used to be, but your veteran leadership, your ability to practice well, to keep the practice attention to details high, to be a mentor in the locker room. And we're going to pay you enough money to satisfy, but you're just not going to get the reps. And I'll also say, as someone who's a former athlete, athletes are the last ones to know that we don't have it anymore. We're the last, because our hearts, our minds, our being, our souls always try to tell us that, man, I can still go do that. You just are, I don't know, it's in us to always think, if I just had enough opportunities, if I just had this, if I had that, then I can still do this. When in reality, we can't. Or we can't at the level we think we can. And what's the sobering part of it all, or the unsobering part of it all? It happens like that. Look at Zach Martin, for example. Zach Martin, for 9 years, has been a model of consistency. He has had more, like up until this year, Zach Martin has had more Pro Bowl appearances than he's had penalties. And then he became mortal. Zeke, from the time that he picked up a football in Pop Warner, in middle school, little league, whatever he played, in high school, in college, and even in the National Football League, he was the best player. And in the league, there was a moment in time, there was a good 2 or 3 year period where he was hands down the best running back in the National Football League. At least a 2 year period. Where it was just no argument, best running back in the league. And you go through this career and then you lose your juice, you lose your burst, you lose all the attributes that got you to that place. But in your mind, in your heart, you think you still can. But the body says, au contraire, mon ami, we can't do what we thought we used to do. We don't break the same tackles. We don't have the same burst. We don't hit the hole the same way. We don't see the reads the same way. But the athlete is always the last one to know. And so you couple that with now I have to deal with the realization of I'm looking at a guy, Enrico Dowdle, who the last time I was here, I was better than. And now they're trying to push a guy who I may feel I'm actually better than in front of me. Now, this doesn't excuse him for being late to meetings and late to this and being a bad teammate. Doesn't excuse him from that at all. But I'm just trying to paint you a picture of the mindset. And do I think Zeke is handling this correctly? If what the reports are saying are true, and what I'm hearing from people that I trust, they are, he's going out bad. And there may be even a deeper thing to this that I won't truly dive into. But these are the times when people sometimes spiral out of control. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave that part at that. But for you, for the Cowboys who are in an organization under Mike McCarthy that travels all their practice squad guys, they travel 17 practice squad players to every game. For you to not be included in that number, you can say it's all mutual all you want. That says a lot. That says a whole lot. That they don't even want you around the team. That's a bad indictment. And I'm going to add another layer to this. And some of you may say, well, why are you bringing Dak in this? Because here's why. When you're in this disarray, as the Cowboys are right now, and you're looking for someone to save you, for something to go right for you, and all you hear is about the bad practices, all you hear is about the lack of details, the lack of assignment alignment football, the inconsistencies all through the year. You're looking for someone to step up and say, be a leader, put us in line, get us right, whether that be a coach or whether it be a player. And ultimately, 90% of the time, that leader, especially offensively, comes from the quarterback, right? They set the tone. You may have some other guys on defense, but normally the quarterback is the leader that everyone kind of just says, hey, he's the guy. Dak's best friend, it's public, it ain't a secret, is Ezekiel Elliott. That's his bestie. They say they used to wear the 214 chains and had, all that. I want to say, didn't somebody get a tattooed on them or something like that? Whatever it is, that was their thing. Those two were besties. And Dak was all excited about getting his bestie back on the team. But what makes it very difficult, and if you listen to the comments that Dak made last week when he talked about it, he said it publicly. I need guys to do more when they leave here. I need guys to be more locked in. I need guys to do more. Was he talking about Zeke? I don't know. Could have been. Could have talked about a lot of people on this team. But here's where it becomes interesting, because we all know, they all know, Dak, that's your bestie. That's fact. That ain't a secret. But when your bestie is, according to the reports, habitually tardy and missing meetings. Now when we're sitting here, we're saying, boy, we are sinking as a football team. And one of the guys who's supposed to be a leader, a veteran, who's been in this league for more than 6-7 years, who is supposed to be helping us and helping keeping our ship afloat, can't get here on time. Damn, he missed the entire meeting. But Dak, this is your bestie. So if you can't get to him and tell him to get here on time, per the reports, what you gonna tell me? You gonna tell me to study harder? You gonna tell me to get here on time? You gonna tell me not to miss this? You gonna tell me to go out here and practice hard? You ain't telling your boy. You ain't screaming at your boy when he missing team events and team functions and meetings and all that. Because now that could be saying that to him. That says a lot about their friendship if this is supposed to be my boy and I'm happy he back here and I'm asking him to do things that he's actually supposed to do without me having to ask him show up on time. That's the easy thing. I'm just show up on time. Hell, you only have to pay attention in the meeting, but at least be here on time. That says a lot about what's going on in the locker room. And that makes it very difficult for a guy like Dak to lead anybody. But it's because the guy that we know is closest to you, he won't even listen to you. Now, everybody's their own man. I get it. I understand it. But we're looking. And when things aren't going right, all of these things that we're seeing are magnified. Those don't get just put. See, if you were 5-2, if you were 6-1, all those things get swept away. All those habitual lates and stuff like that, nobody cares about that. You're 6-1. You're 7-1. Oh, but when you 3-5, that stuff gets